Right, so previously on this channel, we have spoke about many different influencer lawsuits, but we definitely haven't spoke about a lawsuit that involves a company as big as Apple. Not that anyone really needs a reminder as to how big Apple are, right? But just to put this in perspective, Apple have a market cap of $3.2 trillion. So I think it's fair to say, it's not exactly a company that you want to get into legal troubles with, right? They can get the best lawyers that money can buy, clearly. Well, unfortunately for a YouTube channel called FPT, or Front Page Tech, run by John Prosser, this is a reality. He is now being sued by Apple. And in this video, we're going to go into the reasons as to why he's being sued and kind of where this all started. So John has a tech channel, right? He talks about Apple a lot, and he's been uploading a lot of videos throughout the years talking about like Apple leaks. Just a few examples here: iPhone 14 Pro, biggest iPhone leak ever; iPhone 11 leak, old Android feature, new iPhone again. So you get the point. John's been doing this for years, right? But more recently, John posted a leak that clearly Apple weren't very happy with, specifically with how he actually obtained this leak. So this is all surrounding Apple's new operating system. It's actually been announced at this point, right? So we have seen it. The videos we're going to be looking at here from FPT were posted like up to 6 months ago. About 1 month ago, as I'm recording this video, was when it was actually revealed. It's iOS 26. In John's videos, he's calling it iOS 19 because the last one was iOS 18. It would make sense, but Apple have decided to call it iOS 26 for like the year, I guess. Either way, about 6 months ago, John uploaded this video called "Here's Your Very First Look at iOS 19. And in this video, John goes on to talk about how he has been in contact with certain people over at Apple, or people who have connections to other people at Apple, as we'll later find out, and has been sent a bunch of leaks throughout the years.
Even though I haven't been leaking anything myself for the last couple of years, I have kept in touch with some little birdies over at the fruit company. Every year, multiple times a year, I am sent things, and I resist. I thought I was done with leaks, but what I saw is just too significant not to share, so here we are.
Yeah, this might be something that John now regrets. I mean, maybe not, right? The video is still up. We do actually have a response from John that he's posted on Twitter. Obviously, we're going to have to see how the lawsuit plays out, right? But obviously, if the lawsuit doesn't go in John's favor, I'm sure he will probably regret posting these. But either way, carrying on with this video, John goes on to say that he can't actually show like a screen recording or video off the leak that he was shown. So instead, he recreated like an operating system that looks like the leak he was shown.
Unfortunately and obviously, I can't share the real video of what I saw. So to protect the source but still let you see this early, we've recreated it from scratch. The entire app appears much more fluid. Settings are more condensed until you start swiping through.
So yeah, at this point he then goes on to talk about some of the changes. Some of the stuff that he mentions doesn't seem to be entirely accurate. Some of the other stuff does seem to be pretty accurate, definitely very similar at least. Then a few months later, John goes on to upload this video called "This Video is the Biggest iOS Leak Ever, iOS 19 Early Preview." And in this video, he addresses the fact that the leaks that he was showing was a very old build of iOS 19 or 26, whatever you want to call it. So in this video, he's going to show a newer build.
Hey, I'm glad you clicked on the video. You're about to see the biggest iOS leak ever. We already dropped an early preview of iOS 19 in our last video, but about an hour after that went live, Mark Gurman, arguably the most reputable Apple leaker, this guy, claimed that we either faked our iOS 19 leak or had an old, incomplete build. And we took that personally. So we got our hands on a new build. And by new build, I mean the rest of it.
And then the video carries on how you'd expect, right? He goes through the changes in the new operating system. Now, of course, like I mentioned earlier, about a month ago, Apple then announces iOS 26. So John uploads a video talking about iOS 26 first of all, but then goes on to show some comparisons between the leak that he showed previously and the actual release.
Early versions that we had seen and used for our leaks, things weren't nearly as transparent as they actually ended up being. And even then, it was rather hard to recreate and mock up because when we were making it, contrast and visibility was a real issue. But we just had to guess where to fill in the blanks because surely Apple would know how to solve the design issues, right?
And I guess at this point, everything seemed fine, right? Up until about 6 days ago when Apple actually filed a lawsuit. As we can see here, Apple Inc. is the plaintiff, and the defendants are Michael Ramaciotti, I'm so sorry I pronounced that wrong, and John Prosser. So what we find out here is that Michael is allegedly the person who provided John the leaks. And we can see the complaint here, which is misappropriation of trade secrets under the Defense Trade Secrets Act, Act and violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. And in this lawsuit, we hear some accusations that definitely don't sound good in John's favour, but again, it is important to note here that this lawsuit is ongoing. I mean, it's literally at the beginning point right now, right? So we don't have like a full legal response from John yet. We do have a bit of a response on Twitter, which we will get to. But as of right now, these are just accusations. This case arises from defendants' coordinated scheme to break into an Apple development phone, steal Apple's trade secrets, and profit from theft. Defendants' acts harmed Apple and its thousands of employees working tirelessly on iOS and iPadOS, who spend years working in secret on Apple's new features and products. Okay, so straight away, we can see the accusations are that something dodgy's going on here, right? The fact that they're being accused of breaking into a development iPhone. That's how they retrieve these leaks. Now, you might be wondering, how is that possible, right? Like, did John go to Apple HQ and fucking sneak into the back entrance and steal an iPhone? Not quite. In fact, the more we read here, the more it makes sense as to how this would be possible, right? So carrying on with this, it says, the defendants here conspired to break into an Apple employee's development iPhone to take Apple's secrets. On April 4th, 2025, Apple received an anonymous tip email about potential unauthorized disclosures of Apple confidential information. And we can actually see a copy of this anonymous email, right? So it says, I'm not sure who to contact, but as a courtesy to the iOS 19 team at Apple, I wanted to share information I have about an employee who leaked pre-release design details. The iOS 19 information shared by John Prosser is sourced from Ethan Lipnick. Now, this is a different name, right? This isn't one of the defendants. Now, Ethan, who gets mentioned a few times throughout this, was actually an Apple employee. He is the person who had this development iPhone. The email then goes on to say there was a FaceTime call between Prosser and Lipnick, or a friend of Lipnick's, where the iOS 19 interface was demonstrated to Prosser. Prosser has details on the lock screen, home screen, app animations, and app interfaces. The call was a few months ago. Prosser has made a video that shows the iOS 19 interface. Michael Ramaciotti, and then there's a few names that are blanked out here, are involved. Prosser also has been sharing clips from the recorded FaceTime call with Apple leakers. I am sure that Apple has resources to further investigate. Blank has leaked iOS information to Blank and others in the past. So after receiving this email, Apple decided to investigate this matter and see what's happened here, right? And we can kind of see the results of their investigation. Apple's subsequent investigation revealed that defendant John Prosser, working with defendant Michael Ramaciotti, improperly accessed and disclosed Apple's highly confidential, unreleased software designs, including details regarding the unreleased iOS 19 operating system, which is now known as iOS 26 for Apple mobile devices. Defendant's misconduct was brazen and egregious. After Mr. Prosser learned that Mr. Ramaciotti needed money and that his friend Ethan Lipnick worked at Apple on unreleased software designs, defendants jointly planned to access Apple's confidential and trade secrets information through Mr. Lipnick's Apple-owned development iPhone. Apple learned the details of the scheme in Mr. Ramaciotti's own words, through an audio message to Mr. Lipnick, which Mr. Lipnick provided to Apple. According to Mr. Ramaciotti's message, while staying at Mr. Lipnick's home, Mr. Ramaciotti used location tracking to determine when Mr. Lipnick would be gone for an extended period, acquired his passcode, and broke into his development iPhone, which Mr. Lipnick had failed to properly secure according to Apple's policies. As he detailed in the audio message, Mr. Ramaciotti made a video call to Mr. Prosser and showed iOS on the development iPhone. He demonstrated several features and applications, disclosing details of the unreleased iOS 19 operating system. According to his lawsuit, Ramaciotti waited till Lipnick was out of the house, took the iPhone, FaceTimed or video called John Prosser, and showed him the new operating system. Now, obviously, the big question surrounding all of this was whether John actually knew how this leak was obtained. Did he know that Ramaciotti went onto Lipnick's phone without his knowledge and then showed the leak? Did he know that even happened? Now, looking at John's later response, which again we will get to, he is saying he had no idea how he actually obtained this leak. I guess his side of the story is basically he was showed the leak, didn't know how they got it, but he trusted this person and showed it. I mean, this is one of them things where we're just going to see how it plays out, right? When more evidence is shown. Obviously, we need John's official legal response as well. Who knows how this is going to play out? Now, reading a bit further, we actually hear what happened to Ethan Lipnick, who of course isn't a defendant in this lawsuit in particular, but we did hear that there was some consequences, right? It goes on to say Mr. Ramaciotti admitted he knew this access and copying was unauthorized and could put Mr. Lipnick's career in jeopardy, but he did it anyway. Apple subsequently ended Mr. Lipnick's employment for failing to follow Apple's policies designed to protect its confidential information, including development devices and unreleased software and features. So basically, it seems like Ethan Lipnick was fired from Apple because of this. I mean, if Ethan really didn't know that his friend Michael, who was staying at his house, did this and then later found out, I can't even begin to imagine how that conversation went. But reading a bit further, we hear what Ramaciotti has said was his reason for doing this, leaks, right? So it says, Mr. Prosser proposed the scheme and promised to find a way for Mr. Ramaciotti to get paid. If Mr. Ramaciotti would provide access to Mr. Lipnick's development iPhone so Mr. Prosser could steal and profit from Apple's confidential information, Mr. Ramaciotti acknowledged that Mr. Prosser recorded the video call with screen capture tools. Mr. Prosser took videos of trade secrets on the development iPhone, kept them on his own device, and disseminated those recordings to others. He shared the recordings with at least one person who reported back to Mr. Lipnick that he recognized Mr. Lipnick's apartment in the recording. Ultimately, Mr. Prosser profited off Apple's trade secrets by at least sharing them in multiple videos on his business's YouTube channel, from which he generates ad revenue. So basically, Michael Ramaciotti is saying he did this because John Prosser was going to pay him for it. Of course, I think everyone could have probably guessed that was the reason. And according to this, the only reason why Ethan Lipnick even found out about this was because someone who had saw these leaks recognized his apartment in the background. So again, that must have been a crazy conversation. Now look, we're not going to go through the whole lawsuit, right? I just kind of wanted to get the key points as to what is being alleged here. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to read through it all. I don't know how this is going to play out in court either. I mean, who knows? John might have an incredible response to this, but all I do know is that I would hate to be in this situation. Again, we're talking about Apple here, like one of the biggest companies in the world. I don't envy him, let's just put it that way. But scrolling towards the end, we see the prayer for relief. It says, now therefore, plaintiff Apple prays for judgment and relief against defendants as follows. Judgment in Apple's favour and against defendants on all causes of action alleged herein. Injunction relief as the court finds necessary and appropriate. Damages in an amount to be proven at trial. Punitive damages based on defendants' willful and malicious misappropriation of trade secrets. An order directing defendants not to make use of or disclose Apple's confidential, proprietary, and trade secret information to third parties without its written consent, and to return or assist Apple in locating and destroying any such information in their possession, custody, or control. Pre-judgment and post-judgment interest at the maximum legal rate as applicable, as an element of damages that Apple has suffered as a result of defendants' wrongful and lawful acts. Reasonable attorney's fees and costs incurred, and such other relief as the court deems just and proper. Apple demands a trial by jury for all cause of action, claims, or issues in this action that are triable as a matter of right to a jury. Now, like I mentioned a few times, we do have a response from John Prosser here, right? And it's over on Twitter. It's a bit of a short response, but this is what he had to say. For the record, this is not how the situation played out on my end. Luckily, have receipts for that. I did not plot to access anyone's phone. I did not have any passwords. I was unaware of how the information was obtained. Looking forward to speaking with Apple on this. And he even goes on to show a screenshot of some text messages who I assume we have to guess here was with like Mr. Ramaciotti, right? And we see the blue messages being John here. So he says, how the hell did you get this? Lol. And then it says, this message was deleted with some like shush emojis. What was deleted? I guess we'll never know. What? God damn it. But we're 100% sure this is legit material? Yes. Oh boy, okay. Trusting you blindly, lol. Well, I mean, you're not entirely blind here. Any info I've given you within the last year and a half has been correct. Now, of course, this is only a short snippet of the text messages, but judging from this, he is asking like how it was obtained, and he doesn't really get an answer. So maybe he really didn't know how it was obtained. And I feel like if that is true, that would probably change things legally. But again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how this is going to play out. It's going to be interesting, right? I wonder if we're going to get like a more detailed response from John. Obviously, there's going to have to be a legal response too. So I guess we're just going to see how this plays out. But I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I mean, what do you think is actually going to happen here? This is definitely the biggest lawsuit we spoke about this channel. And what I mean by that is the biggest company involved, right? The most money that could possibly be put into this lawsuit. It's probably a very stressful time for John, I can imagine at this point. But again, we don't know how this is going to play out. John might have a really good response. Who knows? But either way, I'm going to leave the video there. If you did enjoy it, leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff. Also, if you're interested in some other content, me and Emily have a channel where we play games, react to reality shows, do vlogs, stuff like that. So if you're interested in any of that, that's always linked in the description. And until the next one, I'll see you guys in a bit. All right, goodbye.